Hey everybody, High Lord Tamburlaine, Obscurities in Miniature. I don't know why that was sung. Sorry, we won't do that again. Anyway, today I've got something very near and dear to me. Very excited to have this. This is the John Carter of Mars Heroes of Barsoom set from Modiphius Entertainment. And I gotta say, I grew up reading the John Carter books. My dad used to read them to my brothers when they were little, and it always had a big impact on me, especially the old editions with the Frank Frazetta artwork. And so I was super excited to see that Modiphius was going to be putting out the John Carter RPG as well as these figures. And already I cannot figure out how to open up the box. What in the world? Alright, let's figure out how to do this. Alright, after much cursing, swearing, and eventually a pair of scissors, we got things open! Hooray! And inside we have 4 bags for 4 heroes as I hurl the debris to the floor. Alright, first up, we got Woola. Woola was it Deja Thoris's pet? I think so. Whee! So we have Woola's base. And if you're not familiar, Modiphius is the company that's putting out the Fallout Wasteland Warfare resin bits. Woola is nice and big. Maybe one of you who's read the books can correct me. Was he Tarkus's pet or Deja Thoris? Or did Carter find him on the moon? Not the moon, the Mars! The Mars. I don't even know what I'm talking about here. It's been a long day. This looks to be our intrepid hero, John Carter himself, if I can get him out without destroying him in the process. John is at least 3 pieces, but I only see 2. That's going to need some cleanup. Not a big deal. Oh, look at that Elvis-like hair. What a dashing Civil War soldier. I don't remember which side he fought on. It's been a long time since I've read the books. I'm sorry. And again, we got a nice scenic base along with his trusty handgun and sword. I think I'm going to have to actually paint these bases a reddish color to go along with the whole Martian topography. This would be Deja Thoris then. Base. Very Mars. And I guess for a Deja Thoris, she's dressed reasonably well. I mean, you know, she's basically wearing not much in the books, but I think for a modern interpretation, that works pretty well, especially if you want to have a more family-friendly Mars. But you know what? Who cares about I was going to say the humans. The Martians and the humans. We're here for the Tharks. Here in all his majestic glory is a Tharks. I don't remember. Again, it's been a long time since I've read the books. But I've always had a thing for the bug-eyed, 4-armed, giant Martian warriors. This is just nice and big. I'm really liking this despite all of the flash that's going to need to be cleaned up on this guy. So he's got 2 swords at least. And what do we got here? We've got his rifle in his other hands. Got his head with his tusks. And what looks to be a scabbard of some sort. I have no idea where that scabbard's going to go. And I can probably go cheat and look online. But the casting quality, despite all of the flash and the mess, it's going to need to be cleaned up. That's not a big deal. And really, it's not going to take that long either. There is just all kinds of fun little details. Got an extra pistol there. I'm really curious. I bet it goes right here. This looks like a good spot to stick a scabbard, doesn't it? I'm going to say yes. So our buddy Tars here, quite big. And he looks like he is going to be on a 50mm base as well. MJC04AB. I wonder... I don't know what the MJ stands for, but whatever. A and B and C. how about I take a moment and get these guys cleaned up. I will be back in a sec, and let's see how they look after they have had a moment to get cleaned. All right, after a quick cleanup, we've got our heroes built. Let's start with the protagonist. After all, the game and the books were named after him. Here's John Carter. Da, 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 da. And he actually seems to have less clothing than Deja Thoris for once. It looks like he's supposed to be pulling his pistol out of his holster and, of course, waving his saber heroically. It's not a U.S. cavalry saber, but I don't think he ever brought us a sword. From Earth up to Mars in the first place. Casting quality is pretty nice. For whatever reason, their stuff, the Modiphius resin, that is, has always reminded me of the Protoss resins. If you guys have built any of Protos's resin model kits, they're not fragile or brittle. They have some good flex, and they feel pretty solid for resin pieces. And once they're painted, I mean, they actually feel kind of like plastic. I don't feel like I'm going to break them if I use them on the table. And they're not too complicated to build. I mean, everything went together really quickly, really easily. I didn't have any issues really at all with Mr. Carter. And you can see here, we'll just bring them a little bit more to the forefront. And hopefully I won't have my camera go catapulting off the tripod like last time. Just to give you a good sense of scale. Now, obviously, the proportions are a lot more natural, true scale human, not the squat heroic proportions that we tend to see with more of the older GW sculpts. Sadly, I don't have any other humans laying around from GW. I'd like to grab some of their other modern humans from the board games and just to get a comparison. So what is Mr. Carter without Miss Thoris? His ever-present love interest. So she was one piece, which was a nice, easy plug her in the base and be done with it. If anybody has any tips or techniques on getting these stupid bases off without ruining them, I have the worst time with that. I would be all ears or all eyes if you can direct me to a video on that. I have had a horrible time with that every time I try to build them. Now, the actual model quality is pretty good. I know there's some bits that still need to be cleaned off, but I always do that before I prime them anyway. And more than likely, these are going to get primed very quickly, and then I'll probably start them, and then they're going to sit on the table for 2 or 3 months as I try to figure out just how in the world am I actually going to paint them. Here we have Woola, and Woola's a big model. Woola was just the 2 pieces, and he, she, it, they just kind of plug right in to the base like that. Pretty simple, but a good sized model nonetheless. Now, obviously, he's not going to be as big as, say, a Beast of Nurgle or something like that, but it's a good sized model. And if you put him with something like, toss him in a Frostgrave game or something like I would be inclined to do, he's going to definitely give your player characters a run for the money. He seems like he'd be perfect to use as a Basilisk or something if you're not going to actually play Modiphius's John Carter game. And finally, last but absolutely not least, is my buddy, my pal, Tarkus. And as I showed off earlier, the sculpt quality is really nice when I can get it in focus. There's all kinds of doodads and stuff dangling off of him. My only real gripe is that he's a bit flat despite being a multi-part model. And I think it's just because of how close he's holding that gun to his chest. It just feels too close. If the arms were extended out just a teeny tiny bit, I'm sure that would have required a different, set of parts. But it is what it is. Now, I'm going to try not to knock him over because I didn't bother to glue him to his base yet because I like to glue things as I go. But he is definitely a good-sized model, despite being a little flat. So he's going to put the GW guys to shame in terms of size. But the Green Martians were supposed to be quite large and deadly and dangerous and big. So, very nice model of one of the most important characters, and my favorite growing up of the John Carter characters. Probably of all of the Edgar Rice Burroughs books. So we get a good look at his face. He's got the traditional bug eyes there and the little antennae things that would grow on their heads. I'm assuming those were in the stories. I can't remember. Like I said, it's been a long time. I vividly recall sitting in the back of the classroom on a rainy day in junior high in 7th or 8th grade English and just devouring the first of the John Carter books. And then spending my summer vacation reading through the rest at my grandparents' house, watching old Twilight Zone reruns, and what a good old time. So, Tharks, I salute you. A childhood friend finally coming to my own table and most likely cabinet. Now, let's talk price. I want to say these guys were supposed to retail for about 30 or 40, and does that seem like a good deal? I'm not sure. I'm really off on my economy of resin figures. I don't know what's a good price anymore. The fact that Tharks is on a 50mm base along with Woola, I'm inclined to give Modiphius the benefit of a doubt that that's a pretty good deal. Yeah, you only get 4 figures, one of them being a giant 4-armed, awesome fighting machine, and the other a multi-legged basilisk-like monster, and 2 human-sized characters. I guess that's no worse than any of the Fallout figure boxes. And again, Fallout, they got to pay a licensing fee. There's all kinds of cards and other junk involved if you've ever looked at any of my unboxing videos of that. So it is what it is. Overall, I mean, $35, $40, not too bad. I want to say that did include shipping, so I can't complain about that. But the fact that I've got officially licensed John Carter figures, rather than some, quasi-gray area, vaguely looking like it's supposed to be John Carter stuff, even though I think that, it is in public domain. I think it's all part of the Burroughs estate. I don't know. I'm not going to even pontificate on that. I'm just going to shut up and let them all speak for themselves. There are no links yet on Modiphius' website, but if there are, I will update this video at a future point and include those. But do keep your eyes out. This is part of their Kickstarter for the game, and these figures should be making it to either retail or more likely Modiphius' website at the very least in the near future. So if you're interested in any way, shape, or form in John Carter or Burroughs books, I'm hoping for some of the Mahar or whatever they were called from Pellucidar at some future point and just make it a Savage Core Burroughs style thing. I don't know. Anyway, check out Modiphius' website. Keep your eyes peeled because this stuff will be coming out there in the near future. With that said, this is High Lord Tamerlane with Obscurities and Miniatures saying, bye-bye, even though I'm out of focus.